You are listening to Insurance Untangled podcast, where we explore the various challenges faced by dental practices due to their reliance on insurance. In this podcast, we dive deep into the issues surrounding dental insurance dependence and offer practical solutions and strategies for reducing your reliance on insurance. Join us as we interview industry experts, share success stories, and provide valuable insights to help you take control of your practice's financial future.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast and the Navigating Dental Insurance podcast. My name is Ben Tuinei, and I'm here with my co-host, Tessina. Tessina, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. On the both podcasts, Naren, of course, is the other podcast with the Insurance Untangled, and then Jordan Comstock is our other podcast host for the Navigating Dental Insurance podcast. But we share content in an effort to reach doctors, as well as solicit good content information from those excellent billers that are out there. So if you're one of those people, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to share any fantastic breakthroughs that you've experienced as it pertains to dealing with insurance. What we want to talk about today is this whole interesting topic of Medicare. So as you can see, the topic of the episode is understanding the complexities of dealing with Medicare as in the world of dealing with the dental insurance. So we're going to dive right into it here, and we're just going to have a discussion together, Tessina and I. So Tessina, Medicare, I guess the first question is, a lot of doctors are asking, how did I end up getting credentialed with that Medicare plan? I didn't sign a contract, but I'm on Aetna Medicare. How did that happen? What's your best explanation on how the Medicare contracts are tied to PPO contracts?
Yes, that is such a good question, because that does happen all the time. And I'd say in general, offices wind up on plans that they don't know how they got on those plans. When you're filling out an application for a plan, you need to make sure you're looking at the plan selection area and that you know what plans to select. A lot of offices are nervous or don't know which plans, so they select all. That would be my biggest advice: is be very careful. Never select all. It's never all of them.
Right.
We want to be very careful and very selective about what plans we choose. If you're not sure, call them and say, what plan is this? What is the fee schedule for this? And how is it going to pay? Medicare is often just automatically tied into the PPO, but you do have the option to remove the Medicare and remain PPO only. And I have this request a lot, sometimes because the fee schedules are so terrible that the Medicare patient influx can be really heavy. A lot of Medicare patients and the plan pays terrible. So they don't want to be stuck with that. If you're negotiating your fees correctly, and you are using your Medicare correctly, I have a lot of offices that love the Medicare. This last year, anyways, it was really good. They paid 100% coverage for everything, high maximums, and if you were on the right fee schedule, a great fee schedule. So they loved it. They got to take care of the Medicare patients, and they got to be reimbursed properly for it. This year, we are seeing some changes with the Medicare. Ben, you and I were talking about this, but a few years back, Medicare was known as not a very good plan to be on. It didn't cover much. Last year, maybe the year before even, it started really increasing. There was implant coverage. It paid 100% of benefits. It was fantastic. And then this year, 2025, watch out. Make sure you're doing a good insurance verification eligibility check on all Medicare plans, on all companies. These plans have been drastically changing for 2025 with reduced benefits. So that's something to watch out for.
That's an excellent answer there. We kind of covered, I think that answer, Tessina, you kind of covered all the highlights with regards to Medicare.
Sorry, I went through it really fast.
No, that's good. Let's break it down. Let's go back a little bit. This is actually perfect. It gives us a good outline of the discussion. So let's go back to the credentialing part. So essentially, so the answer that you gave, it sounds like the PPO contracts, they include Medicare, right? And people select all the options. But are there Medicare plans that you can enroll with under the same PPO agreement where the PPO fees are the same as Medicare?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the PPO fees are often the same fees as your Medicare fees. And so again, that's where you want to pay attention to what that fee schedule is and if you're willing to be contracted with the Medicare or not based on that fee schedule.
Perfect. So let's say, I'm a doctor looking to join new PPO plans, and then I'm faced with this option to enroll with Medicare, and I see that the Medicare fees are the same as PPO. If in my mind I'm uncertain whether I want to go down the world of Medicare, because I think when you think about these government programs, when you hear the word Medicare, a lot of times people think about Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, I might be feeling some hesitation to opt in with that Medicare plan. What is your recommendation sort of faced with these tough decisions to make on, do I do Medicare since I'm joining the PPO plan at the same fee schedule, or do I stay away? And if I stay away, why?
Yeah, definitely. There are pros and cons to both. Again, that fee schedule is the biggest concern. When we hear Medicaid, we think low fee schedules and patients who are not ready to move forward with treatment and not worried about the quality of care. So that would be that initial thought process of, oh, I don't want to do Medicare. But Medicare is different, and it is a different quality of patient. I actually see Medicare patients very concerned with the quality of their oral health, and they do want to move forward with treatment, and they do value treatment. The concern still is their own personal finances. They are restricted. Most of them are just getting their Social Security payments. Some of them only get $800 for the whole month. So to opt them in for additional services or additional amounts above the contracted amount can be very difficult for them to accomplish because they just don't have the resources, even though they see the value and they want to get it done. But as far as what to do with signing up or deciding Medicare or not, you're evaluating the fee schedules, you're evaluating the quality of the patients and their mindset on it. And then take into account also that these plans are not governed by the insurance commissioner of the state. You do not have the support of them. You have to get your complaint sent over to CMS. And they do help, but they are not as helpful as a state commissioner, just so that we're all aware. Not too surprising, government authorities are not as interested or not caring as much as state commissioners when the insurance company is having a trend or clearly abusing an elderly patient by making them pay for their crown. CMS is not as mindful of that. They will look into it halfway. They'll halfway do their job. You may or may not get a reply. You have to stay on top of them. They're not as interested. So I would, and you can try it out. I do have a list of companies in my head that I know which ones work really well and do value quality care and don't give me very many denials. I'm happy to work with those ones. Other ones that push back and give lots of denials, I may not accept that plan because I know I don't have support and backup from the government to get help when they are abusing my elderly patients.
Yeah, I've noticed that same pattern from the very time I started in dentistry, is that the federal government agencies are, they're about 1% of a state insurance commissioner in terms of advocacy, as far as what you can, how much you can get them to help. But, so with that in mind, Tessina, when you think about enrolling with Medicaid, another perspective of dentists, this might seem like a silly question for a lot of the listeners, but a lot of doctors actually ask this question is, if I enroll with Medicare under a PPO agreement, what type of treatment do doctors typically see for Medicare subscribers?
Yeah, this is where we were saying it's changed over time. So 2 years ago, implants were covered at 100%. Last year, they took away implant coverage altogether. This and everything else was covered at 100%. This year, a lot of plans are now preventative only, and the patient has to pay the rest out of pocket. So be very mindful of asking those questions. What does the coverage look like for your plans? What Medicare plans do offer. Many of them will have several options. They'll have a preventative only, but they'll also have a 100% coverage option as well. I don't know. I have not figured out. Honestly, I've been trying to figure out who is offered what and why, because some of my patients are not eligible or offered the 100% coverage. They're only offered the preventative only. I've not been able to get to the bottom of it. I promise you guys, I will keep working on it. But you wanna talk to the insurance company about what plans they offer. They have set plans all ready for the year. They know in advance, we offer these 3 options, and this is what coverage looks like. So you can ask that question when you're deciding whether or not you want to take that plan with that company. So we're not saying, do I take all Medicare or no Medicare? Maybe you take Aetna Medicare, but not Cigna Medicare, or you take Cigna Medicare, but not Aetna.
Right.
So a look at what plans they offer for your patients. Again, are we putting ourselves in a situation of heartbreak when those patients come in and they have to pay out of pocket, or the insurance is not supporting them like we would like to see them support it? And then what are you going to do to help those patients get the care they need when you know the insurance isn't helping out? Some offices have strict policies of no payment plans. That may not be a good scenario for that patient, may not be a good fit. So maybe don't take the plan that's preventative only.
Gotcha. So I think some education surrounding, the whole realm of what's covered under Medicare is a good idea for our practices to be, at least understand if you're going to participate with Medicare. Because it seems like these changes, especially when they reduce down to preventative only, senior citizens for the most part are on fixed incomes. That minimizes their options on what they can get as far as treatment. Well, it minimizes the options on treatment with what they can afford,
Yes.
And so,
with what they can afford to do. And it is a heartbreaking situation. And I would say every year you cannot just say, hey, do you still have that Medicare plan? You have to verify it. You have to find out what has changed. And I find out they know ahead of time. So I actually start asking November, December, what is the plan going to be for next year? And we might reconsider again. Maybe we were taking Medicare, but for next year, maybe we don't want to take that Medicare plan. And then you'd have to notify those patients. We're talking about losing some patients or something. But again, if it's not a good fit for your office or not a good fit for those patients, that may be the best thing to do. And when we go out of network with these plans, these insurance companies see that behavior is not acceptable, and they have to change it if they want to keep their providers.
So that's actually a really good pivot, Tessina, Medicare out of network. I know that Medicare plans through United Healthcare, like your dual completes, as an example, historically have not covered out of network benefits. And is that still the case this year? Do you know?
I think it is, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it still is, based upon his historical dealings with United Healthcare. Is when clients enroll with the United Healthcare Medicare, all of a sudden patients that came back that couldn't use the benefits, some of them do come back, because now that they have access to benefits. But question I have is, from an out-of-network perspective, what is your observation on the whole part of, does Medicare even cover, or how much do they cover if they see an out-of-network provider these days? Do you see any of that?
I do. Some plans do have out-of-network coverage, and they pay sometimes full office fees, and the patient's benefits are the same regardless of where they go. I will say Cigna was an example. Cigna Medicare plans were paying quite well as out-of-network, and I'm not always overly a fan of Cigna, but they did really good for Medicare last year. I have not actually looked into those. I don't have as many patients on the Cigna Medicare as I do with United Healthcare and Aetna. So I have to reevaluate my Cigna ones. But like $3,000 maximum, 100% coverage for everything, out of network benefits. They were really stepping up the game. So we loved it.
That's awesome. I know that I'm hearing from clients this year in 2025 that Aetna Medicare out of network used to cover 100% of things like preventative and standard coverage, 80% for minor, 50 for major, but that's changed to where Now out of network for preventative is at 50%, and then other treatment categories are even less. And so in situations like that, like just kind of brainstorming a little bit. So if you're in that situation as a doctor and you're out of network with a plan, like let's say Aetna, but you have 300 plus Medicare patients, what would be your recommendation for that doctor in terms of the patients now complaining that they're not getting good coverage, right? It's their plan, but they're complaining to the dental offices.
Yeah. Most of them are very understanding that it's a government plan and the government is not taking care of them anymore. But I have my list of my good companies that offer good Medicare benefits, and I tell them to go back to their broker or their representative and ask to be switched. We do that quite often, and they have good success in that. Another option is to remove them off of that and do an in-office discount plan. And there are payment options available through Care Credit or through Cherry, so that your office doesn't have to do payment plans, but that the senior citizen has that option available to them. A lot of times if they find, and this was what we did for many years before Medicare started coming to play. Nobody took the supplemental dental plans. They would say, I had it, but it didn't cover anything anyway, so I dropped it. So for many, many years, our Medicare patients didn't have any dental supplemental plans. It wasn't worth adding it on because it didn't cover anything. In this last 2 years, all of a sudden, Medicare came to play and they had really good coverage and everybody got signed up for it. And we were using it and we're loving it. Now, this is very typical of what we see in the ebbs and flows. Now that they have all these providers and they have all these members, they're starting to pull back and restrict benefits again. I say, go back to how we had it before. It was fine. The Medicare patients don't have to add on that dental supplemental plan. And we have other options we can provide for them.
Got it. Well, this has been wonderful, Tessina. I think this whole world of Medicare tends to scare doctors because it sometimes gets sort of conflated with Medicaid, right? But I guess the final component of Medicare that I know is that, in years past, like 5 years ago, CMS was requiring doctors that you have to get credentialed with Medicare or express your opt-in or opt-out notice to Medicare. And that came with all kinds of compliance. I'm not currently aware of that level of compliance. It was something in the range of 10 continuing education hours a year. I know that's not a whole lot, but for Medicare in particular, that's a lot. 10 CEs hours in order for you to maintain your Medicare compliance. I'm not seeing any of that imposed on doctors these days. Are you?
Not as much, no. When it's tied together with the PPO, a lot of them will say, hey, you have to go watch this training video for your Medicare plans, but it's pretty limited. And there's no follow-up. They're not managing it.
Got it. Well, this has been amazing information, Tess, and I really appreciate you and the time that you spend educating us, me and our listeners on all these insurance-related topics. So thank you. And so for our listeners, to get a hold of Tessina, you go to our website, verusdental.com, VERUS dental.com, or send Tessina an email. It's just Tessina@verusdental.com to get a hold of her. But of course, she does have a suite of services that any of you can reach out to her for directly. So I want to thank our listeners for joining us today. Another amazing episode of the Insurance Entangled and Navigating Dental Insurance podcast. If you like these episodes, give us some love, give us some reviews, share the content with other doctors that may have the same questions regarding the topic. Until we meet again, we wish everyone the best of success. Take care, everybody.